Welcome to episode 5 of What God Forgot to Tell Surgeons. In this episode, it's all about chi physiology, and I thought what better way to start it than to have a look and see how electricity moves inside a computer. So, as you know, chi, electricity, pretty similar things. So I thought if we had a look, I've left the computer plugged in so that we can see things moving around inside it, and I'm taking the lid off now. There we have the inside of the Mac Mini. You can see the channels, the electrical channels there. Not really much sign of the electricity yet, so we'll just have a closer look in. Obviously, we wouldn't look inside a computer to try and find the electricity, because we know that the electricity within a computer is effectively invisible. And the same is true within our bodies. It's very difficult to see this electricity moving around, this energy, this chi. Now, it can be seen easily enough with the ECG or an EEG. I say easily, it's only in the last 100 years that humans have worked out how to actually record things like the ECG. And we can see the electricity moving around in the heart fairly easily. But the rest of the organs, it becomes trickier. So what is chi physiology? Well, physiology is the normal functioning in health of an organism. So chi physiology is the normal functioning of chi in an organism. And physiology is important for health because it tells us what pathology will be, because anything that isn't physiological will be pathological. So if we understand the physiology, we can then understand the pathology, and we can understand what we need to do to turn the pathology back into physiology. And with chi has been described in the classics as being exactly the same as water. So it flows in the same way as the water. And that's why all the points tend to be named after water. So for instance, you have well, spring, stream, and sea. Now, water, interestingly, flows in the same way as electricity. It flows from areas of high pressure to low pressure. It flows down a concentration gradient, what is known as a potential difference within physics. But for water, that potential difference is a potential height difference. So it flows from a high to a low area, and it also flows in a current, just like electricity. So the idea that we can use water to understand the flow of chi makes a lot of sense. The fact of the matter is that even though the classics describe this in terms of water, electricity is a better fit for what chi is. Water tends to have a large volume, whereas electricity has a very, very tiny volume. In fact, I'm not even sure it has a volume. If you're a physicist out there, you probably know the answer to that question. So hence why I was looking inside the computer for the electricity, because it wasn't to be seen. And so it is with our bodies. We're not going to be able to see this very easily. But when we look, we can find it. If you have a look, for instance, at the functions of all the organisms, you can break them down into these functional units. So a functional unit is a part of the organ that mirrors the function of the organ, but it's just a microscopic part of it. So it's a fractal in essence. So the nephron of the kidney does exactly the same as the kidney. It's just one millionth of a kidney. And so the sinusoid of the liver is the area where the blood flows into the liver and is separated. And this is again just a tiny microscopic unit of a liver, and the liver then creates hundreds of thousands of these to create the full-blown liver. But that individual functional unit mirrors the function of the larger liver. In essence, it's a fractal liver. And if we look at all of these microscopic functional units of the organism, we find that they're all running on this electrical charge. So they've all got this electrical charge generally sitting across a membrane that then directs the flow of substances in that organ. So in the heart, for instance, the membrane is just the membrane of the conduction system and the cells, and it directs the charge of electricity across it, which then causes the contraction of the heart. In the kidney, that membrane is called Bowman's capsule, and it directs the flow of protein and other fluids into the collecting ducts, and then that determines what fluid is excreted and what fluid is reabsorbed, and so on. So the functional units of all of the organs can be represented like this. And we're going to talk about these individually when we talk about the organs. But for now, it's just important to understand that the chi within the organ is held in the functional unit in this way. It directs the flow of useful substances within the organ. And what happens is then that creates a larger energy within the organ. Now that energy then naturally will flow outwards, just as water or electricity does. And when it does this, it moves along the channels, because the channels are just a way for the body to stay connected. And when it moves down the channels, it starts obeying chi physiology. And what that means is that it will naturally want to flow to the outside as quickly as possible, because that's what substances do. They try and go from high pressure to low pressure. Now the outside of our body is relatively low in chi, and the inside is relatively high. In fact, the organ with the most chi in our bodies is the heart. It uses the most amount of energy per gram of any organ in our body. Second is the kidney, or joint first is the kidney, and then the brain comes after that. So these organs are concentrating chi in the exterior. The chi is then flowing to the outside along the channels, and as it does this at various points, which become the acupuncture points, the chi is transformed to enable a smooth onward journey. So we're going to talk about that transformation of chi later when we talk about point physiology. But this lecture was about chi physiology, and it's hence very simple. It's just a question of understanding how water or electricity flows, and the three key facts to remember are that the chi is going to be much stronger internally, just as everything is stronger internally, just as heat is stronger internally. So the interior core of our body is hotter. So chi is stronger internally. It will flow down paths of least resistance that become the channels, and as it travels through these channels, it will encounter areas where that chi is transformed for its onward journey.